discussion. Deshaun Watson in the news again today. We'll get into it, but he actually settled 20 of his 24 lawsuits, guys.
And that
or at least he's going to. It's in the process. It's in the process of settling. I don't know if it's official now, but he's in the process of settling 20 of his 24 civil lawsuits. My question here is, though, wasn't there 2 other lawsuits joining?
I thought we were up to 26 at one point, right?
That was reported, and I believe it's still a thing that's out there, but I'm not sure if because they've not. There's been no mention of the 26,
right? Only
of 24.
Yeah, 20 of the 24 women have filed the civil lawsuits. He has agreed to a settlement, non-disclosure. You can't do it. And this comes from the NFL Network's Bridget Condon.
If you basically listen to the Tony Busby, who is defending the women or representing the women, I should say, in this case, he actually has gone on the record to basically praise Ashley Solis,
right?
The young lady who I believe was the first. Initial. Yes, she's the first one to bring any type of accusations against Deshaun Watson, and I believe she was the first to file the civil lawsuit. He has gone out of his way to, and she, by the way, I believe is among the 4 who has not settled.
Yes, she is not settled. And that's why this case is going to continue to roll on, and he looks to, make that happen.
Tony Busby said the cases against Deshaun Watson started with one phone call from one brave and strong woman. That woman was Ashley Solis. At the time of the call, she was just one of the hundreds of calls seeking legal assistance that our firm gets weekly.
Hundreds.
Even though I think he's talking about that they get in general, not from the Deshaun Watson. Like in general, we get weekly. But he said even though she was originally, I think that's what he's talking about, but I could be wrong. I'm assuming he's not getting hundreds of calls weekly about Deshaun Watson, but maybe he is, Hardge. Maybe he is. Maybe he's talking about Deshaun Watson specifically. I hope he's just talking about our caseload as a law firm, but that would be troubling if he just get hundreds of, but maybe it is. Maybe
Remember, we heard different numbers about him.
Real Sports, HBO Real Sports threw out 100, basically within a year that he had went to 100 plus or solicited 100 plus women via social media for massages or other services. And I believe the number from the New York Times was 67?
66.
66 in a 17-month period, somewhere around there. Yeah. But he went on to say that woman was Ashley Solis. At the time of that call, she was just one of hundreds of calls seeking legal assistance that our firm gets weekly. Even though she was originally turned away by our screening process, my staff insisted that I personally speak with her. I'm glad she persisted. Once we took a second look after having contact with Watson's original lawyer, who disrespected Ashley and her profession and who arrogantly minimized the conduct of someone he referred to as an asset, I was convinced that our law firm should try to help her. So she is one of the 4 women who have decided that they are not settling the lawsuit with Deshaun Watson.
So my question would be this. Throughout this process, not settling, not going to be silent, I guess is the reason why she doesn't want to be silent about it. She wants to continue to push this narrative. But we've already gone through the criminal court cases, right, where the not felony, he's not going to jail, he's not facing any of those charges because the jury has thrown it out twice. So what would be...
Yes.
What would she be looking for? Is it more money than what the settlement's going to be? Why, because it seems if 20 of them have come to an agreement, what was the number? I mean, there's got to be a bigger number for her, I would assume.
I would assume that. It could also be, she's already spoken out. She's already been interviewed before. So maybe it's the fact that she didn't want to sign an NDA.
That was
part of it too. Like, hey, you
probably
have to sign
gonna have
NDA.
a book come out.
Yeah, and she's like, no NDA for me. I want to be compensated for the grief that I was caused allegedly. But the NDA is a big part of it that they want. Once this thing is wrapped up from a settlement perspective, from a civil lawsuit perspective, that there are no more interviews and, you don't write the book and the documentary and all those. And I'm not saying that, we don't need to know more about what happened and what took place, but I believe from Deshaun Watson's legal team, they want this thing, once they are done with the settlements, they want it done so they can start to rehab his image.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. I mean,
I think I think you're right. I think it's money.
Yeah,
but I think it's money, and it might be somewhat like an NDA too.
Yeah, and it might just be she's on the mission that she wants all the details to come out in court, so they're documented, and she can say, "Okay, I said it. Even if I lose the case, I said everything in a court of law."
Yep.
So there's a record of everything now, and we can say if this happens again, we can say we told you so. If it never happens again, then hopefully that helped him change his ways. But I think that's too of where some of these women, at least that's the way Busby is positioning it.
Yeah,
that they want their day in court because they just want to say, like, they want to be able to say their side.
All right, so let me ask you this. Let me throw this out there. Hypothetically, is this something that the Cleveland Browns, as an organization, is? Because I don't know if it's in the contract. I haven't seen the contract, and I probably won't see the contract. But do you think there was something that was in this contract that you have to go seek help in this? Is this a sex rehab type of deal like Tiger Woods had to do because of this case?
If it is, they've kept it obviously private because they want him to genuinely try to seek help within the organization so that this doesn't happen again. He goes off the rails. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that could be in the contract. I'm sure anything.
There's got to be some steps in there.
Well, it's definitely a morals clause. Yeah. But you're right. You're talking about, hey, no, we're gonna make it, something that's mandatory as a part of signing this deal that you need to go to this therapist once a week, and we need you to go to whatever, like you said, rehab, whatever it may be. That's not a bad idea, in case he doesn't believe he needs help. Right. And I think a lot of people observing this case from outside be like, hey, man, like I said, the OJ principle applies, in my opinion. Just because you were found not guilty doesn't make you innocent here, Deshaun Watson.
Right.
And I think for him, if he is authentic in his, effort to try to, be a good person, and he's like, hey, man, that was just a misunderstanding. Maybe there were 20-something of those, whatever. You got to have the man in the mirror moment when 20-something women accuse you of sexual misconduct and go, all right, what did I do? Is it is it the way I treat women, the way I approach women? What is it about me and what I've done that makes these women uncomfortable?
Right.
Yes, it doesn't, the burden of proof didn't rise to criminality. But the burden of proof in a civil court is much lower. It's
definitely much lower.
And I think Deshaun Watson knows that.
And that's a judgment call when you start doing that, literally.
Yeah. And that's why he wanted to sell the cases. And I think it's smart to sell the cases because now I think there's a chance the NFL, because I thought a big part of the NFL suspending him for a year potentially. Remember, Washington Post reporter Mark Mask reports the NFL will try to impose a year suspension. They will recommend it. That's the way it works now with the new CBA. The NFL can recommend a suspension, but it's the disciplinary officer jointly hired and paid by the Players Association and the NFL. So she's a neutral party. The former federal judge, Sue L. Robinson, she is the one ultimately that will make the ruling and determination on the suspension and on the punishment. Roger Goodell will handle the appeal, but if she says, a year is too much, 8 games is what I'm recommending, it's going to be 8 games. If she goes with the NFL's recommendation, right now they're saying it's likely a year. And the reason I thought a year was more appropriate, at least from the NFL's perspective, is let Deshaun work through these civil lawsuits.
Right.
If he's going to have to go through them one at a time. Well, if the 20 of the 24 lawsuits are settled and maybe there are 2 more coming out, maybe they can work through these lawsuits before the season starts. And like I said, you'll still suspend Deshaun Watson, but my argument that, hey, you need time to figure all this out and to work through all the lawsuits and to come out on the other side of it, that doesn't necessarily apply if he's all the lawsuits settled, which I think helps him from the NFL's perspective. I think for the image of the league, which is what they're concerned about, the shield, it's better if the lawsuits are done. It's a bad look when you got 26 or 24 lingering out there, and he's still, he might be playing football this season. No. If he's he ain't playing football this season if he's got that many unresolved civil lawsuits about sexual misconduct. But they're all settled. And the court of law has already said, actually, there's not enough evidence for us to, bring charges against Deshaun Watson. He has a better case with the NFL by being suspended.
Going back to that morality clause that's in there, I'm sure that NFL is definitely looking at that. And they did say, just because he's settling these do not have any bearing on what we're going to do as far as his suspension is concerned. Just because he's settling, we still have to lay down the law. So here's the other question that I pose to you guys. Calvin Ridley got suspended for an entire year for a $1,500 bet.
Yeah.
Zeke Elliott got suspended 6 games for not even going to court, not even having to do any of that. It was a morality deal. 26, possibly 100 of these? He's definitely got to be suspended a year.
That's what I've been saying for a while.
I will say the Calvin Ridley thing falls differently because there is a precedent. The precedent is if you gamble on games, you get suspended a year. So for the Zeke and for the Deshaun Watson, there is no precedent for what you're doing. But that is, look, you gamble, doesn't matter. And also, there's reports that he gambled way more than $1,500. He said he gambled $1,500.
I'm just going
reports
by what the
were that he
man
gambled
said.
a lot more than
Yeah,
that.
they got receipts.
But there is a precedent. So you know that. So if Deshaun Watson gambles in the process of this, he's out for a year.
Yep.
Then we can discuss the women later. But that one I know people want to put it because it seems stupid. But that's just like we told you.
Yeah.
If you gamble, and Rod will tell you when you went to camp.
Oh no, it's everywhere in the locker room. It's in
the same
every
in baseball,
facility.
too.
Yeah.
You gamble, you're done.
So that's more
why
precedent.
Pete Rose
There
is
is no
still in
thing in there like, hey, when you're getting massages, stay off Instagram. Don't go. Keep the towel on. That's not posted anywhere.
Yeah.
That's you're supposed to know.
They
that.
probably finna put that up.
They're gonna start putting it up.
Make another one.
But but that's I said, and then when you get down to Deshaun Watson now, I see why he's selling because if you can get NDAs on everybody, then you walk away and you can go from then on out. You can go, we settled it because we wanted to get back on the field as soon as we could.
Yeah.
And there is no way anybody can tell you you're wrong.
You can paint the narrative.
Yeah.
You can start to write the narrative because they can't. Their side won't be heard anymore.
No, and then when you can't answer questions about it, when someone asks you, you can say, legally, I can't tell you anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Legally, I can't say anything. I would love to explain to you how I'm so innocent, but legally, I cannot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's really, I'm sure they're still working on those last 4 and still offering because they know if they can get that, then he'll probably get under a year, even though that's silly. And if he gets under a year, then you still need to fine the crap out of him.
I think the NFL is very smart. And when they did the CBA negotiation and decided to have more of checks and balances with the disciplinary action with the committee, and they got a disciplinary officer now who is jointly hired and paid by the NFL and the NFLPA, the NFL can still leak out there, man, we suggest a year of Deshaun Watson getting punished. But Sue L. Robinson, our impartial, neutral party, she said 10 games or whatever.
From our investigation.
Yeah,
from her investigation.
Exactly. So the NFL can be like, well, we said we wanted a year, but, she knows best. She is a former federal judge. And so they do have this insulation from the blowback where
that's why they did
we wanted a year. Exactly.
Yep,
that's why they set it up the way they did,
that's
where
right.
where we said we wanted a year, but he only gets 8 games, so he'll be playing this season.
Yep.
Put it on the board, Vegas.
Yep.
So the NFL gets their cake and eat it too. They get to look all sanctimonious and high and mighty, like they were trying their best to do the right thing. But oh God, hey guys, you know what? Yes, it is conduct detrimental to the league, but our female impartial party, a neutral party, she decided that Deshaun Watson only needed 8 to 10 games.
I like the fact you said
she decided
former federal judge.
Yeah, exactly. So the NFL's brilliant. So I think they may suggest a year, and then he's not gonna suggest a year or a season, and he's only going to get 10 to 12 games.
Yeah. Now, granted,
and then he appeals, and then Roger Goodell goes, well, we'll knock off a couple more games with the appeal, like they always do.
Well, and the funny part is you look at it and go, this guy gets a 12-game suspension. He has not played football in a year.
Yeah.
He will miss then another more than half of the year to come back and try and play the last 5 games of a season.
Yeah, you're gonna be out of playoff hunt by then.
And then, but even if you're in the playoff
Jacoby Brissett gonna lead them, dog. don't be sleeping on Jacoby Brissett.
Even if you're in, you're still in it. I mean, now you're probably wild card because you're in a division with the there's
the Bengals and the Ravens going to be coming back.
There's a lot of good teams, so it's going to be difficult. But if you're still in it, you come back with 5 games left. If you're in the playoff hunt, do you really want to stick this guy in and mess up everything?
That's
and
a lot of rust. That's a lot of rust.
So it is interesting. Just in the football way of it, that if it's anything less than if it's anything more than 8 games and anything less than a year, that there is a lot of a year and a half plus that he has not been on a field like a actual game field.
Yeah,
That seems like a long time
and during the season,
to walk in and lead to a playoff charge.
And during the season, you can't afford to waste practice reps on a guy who's not going to play because you are limited in your practice reps.
You're not going to let him there. You can't be there. You're away from the team.
I don't know what. Yeah, it's a good point.
Completely away from the team.
Yeah.
If you're suspended by the NFL, you can't even go to the facility to go over there and even say hi.
Yeah. So, I don't even – that's a great point, Patrick. I don't know if they throw him in there. Because if you're not in the playoff hunt,
running routes at Akron,
then you get hurt, and it would make sense. And if they're in the playoff hunt, you're gonna risk losing out on the wild card potentially because he's coming there be as rusty as any quarterback we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, so that makes it curious, and that's where you could see Goodell for the football sake of it. If it's 11 games, 12 games, him go knock it back to 8, knock it back, so we can still get him half a season. And then that'll be interesting. If he can come back and do that, then we'll get the ratings on the back end. I could see the football side of it taking over at a certain point in the appeals process just to, hey, man, let's make this interesting. Why don't we put this top 5 quarterback back in the league?
It would be great. They are actually in the playoffs, and then they decide not in the playoffs they want to upgrade at quarterback. Let me bring him along slowly. Let's say it's a 10-game suspension, and they decide, you know what? No, we're going to give him 10. We're going to give him from week 10 to week 14 to work himself, go to practice, kind of work himself back into shape, and then by the end of the year, we're
17 games. Remember,
we're upgrading that quarterback.
That's right.
You know what I mean? That'd be some freaky stuff.
Well, I mean, that's like look at it. They say you have.
I didn't mean to say freaky stuff.
My bad.
No pun intended. The too low thing. My bad. I'm not trying to do that. Sorry.
You look and you say it's a 17-game suspension. It's a season. They make the playoffs because their defense is great.
Right.
Now it's 17 games. They're in the playoffs. Jacoby Brissett is not having a great season, but he's got them there. And then they sit there and go, well, we need something special to win this playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reality that could happen.
Yeah.
And nobody has a sample size on them, so you can't watch film
your scouting report ain't the same.
You watched film 2 years ago.
Exactly.
You can watch Bill O'Brien film.
Yeah, exactly. You can watch. Right? To try to prepare for Deshaun Watson with the Browns, and they got the best running back tandem.
They got the best running back. They got upgraded wide receiver. They got a tough defense that is going to bring the house to you every time.
Yeah,
this is a dangerous football team. That's why getting this out of the way, and we talked about this last week, getting all this stuff to the forefront. They got real aggressive with it and said, all right, here we go. This is what we're going to pay. Here's the money. We need to get those other 4, and then we're going to wait for the NFL to say what we just talked about, a year suspension. No, we got to go down, and now it's going to be 16, or not 16 games, but 10 games, 12 games.
Something like that.
You're going to be right in that mix, and it's like, okay, now let's see. Because don't forget, the NFL, the Shield, is about ownership too. And ownership, they looked at it. They're mad that they gave him $230 million, but they need some good times.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's part of it, and you're going to be in the press every single day, all press isn't always bad press because you're going to be talked about in the cycle. As you talked about to open the show, people talk about this the offseason. This ain't the offseason. It's just getting hot.
Yeah. No, and that's a good point about and now I don't know the conversations between David Mulligetta, who's the agent for Deshaun Watson, and the Browns, but the $230 million guaranteed, something tells me that, the conversation had to go something like, hey, we got to settle these lawsuits.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to need a lot of money to do it.
Right.
Period.
So, yes.
So, you can offer us salary and all that, but we need it guaranteed.
Yeah.
Because we got to pay out. And so we don't know what the amount will be. That'll leak out in like 2 or 3 years, something like that. But I got a feeling that it's a gargantuan amount of money.
It's a big ticket.
It's a big number.
It's a big ticket.
It's like LIV, live money.
Exactly.
That live numbers being thrown out there to settle some of these